Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to route out this Snoopy dog on some rough fencing wood. Really cheap to purchase this wood, but it routes out fine, no problem whatsoever. And the idea is we're going to route all this out the inside. There's not a lot of work on this one, it's quite a simple project. Ideal for somebody that's maybe just starting out and want to try a bit of routing. And then once it's done, we'll literally just go around it with a scroll saw and actually cut out the shape of the dog. You could leave it on this piece of wood, no problem whatsoever, and route out the background just so the dog stands up a bit. I'm just going to do a bit of router and scroll saw work on this little one. Nice and simple, nothing too complicated. Now, as always for me, we've got our template sorted. We put a bit of carbon paper underneath, literally something like this. This is well worn now, I don't think there'll be any carbon left in this one. And you'll replace that underneath, literally put your paper down, bit of painter's tape to hold it in place. As we are cutting this all out, you can put pins in there, no problem whatsoever. And if you draw around it with a pen, pencil, takes literally minutes. That way, once you've pulled that off, you could use that template over and over again if you wanted to. So there's our little image, all nicely transferred, and we're all good to go. Now you have two options here. I'm actually going to remove all the larger areas, so that would be all the white section of the dog. You can just about see there, I've shaded it in. It's worth taking a couple of minutes just to shade it in. You don't want to go away, come back and start removing the eye or the inside of the ear there. So we're going to remove all the main bit of the dog, leaving the surround raised up 2 or 3 mil. And then once we've cut it all out, obviously, we'll paint that black. So we'll have a nice black border so it stands out well. Black eye, and then the rest will be totally white and then cut out. But like I say, you could leave it on this piece of wood and literally route out the body to 3 mil, let's say, and route out the background to the same depth, just so the dog stands up. But we're going to cut it out today. As always for me, I like to use CNC bits. They'll come in packs of 10 like this. Cheap enough on eBay. If you put in CNC router bits, that's what you'll find. These ones are 10s and 15s. These ones are 20 and 30s. That's the degree of the cut. That's basically the angle of that piece there, of the degree of the cut. That looks like a 15 today, and that's fine for what I need. So that they do fit the router, you need an adapter collet, which is one of those 6.35mm or 1/4 inch, and that just slots into there, into the silver end. Put the darkened end into your router and tighten it up, and we'll have no problems with that. I will use the CNC bit to go around all the lines. So we'll have to go around all the lines here, round everything. We don't need to do the outer edge. Remember, we're going to cut it out with this saw. Also, I've gone down to a nice depth, which I like to use a scrap piece of wood, just to find one that we're comfortable with. We don't want to go too deep. We just want them enough to make sure that you can tell it's been routed out. So I'll say about 3mm now, which would literally be the depth, the thickness, should I say, of one of those CNC bits. Just a rough guideline for you. You can go as deep or as shallow. Just a personal thing. Obviously, once we've done the lines, we'll go on to these end milling bits. Now remember, there is better bits out there. Everybody's personal taste. There's profile bits, spiral uppercuts, 60-degree groove, V-groove bits that you can go on forever and ever and ever. I just like to use these end milling bits. They're ideal because they do clear out, as well as keeping the sides nice and smooth, and the bottoms pretty good as well. So obviously we've done the lines. It'll just be a case of taking that out. That slides in there, up to that plastic barrier. That's quite a new thing, that plastic barrier now. Pop that on into your router, set it to the same depth, and then we'll start clearing it out. There is a fair bit on this to clear out, but it comes out really easy with those end milling bits. There is bigger bits out there. These are straight flush bits. That was one I used to use on everything when I first started routing. from the line work to the clear out on a little thing like that. But we've hopefully improved as we've gone along, and you get dual-sided blades like that, big chunky things. Okay, for that, obviously you're not going to fit down those tight areas here, so find one that you're happy with. I do have a right bag full of tricks here. If you can see all those here, I've not used half of those. I've no idea what they even do. So there's plenty out there to choose from. It's just finding one that works for you. Okay, I think that's about done. We'll start routing this one out. We'll set it to a nice depth. Literally start going on these in the lines. Right, we've gone all the way around with our CNC bit. Short and sweet, that one. Nice and easy project. Now it looks a bit rough at the moment. That's just the nature of the wood. Remember, just cheap, nasty fencing wood. But ideal for anybody that's just starting out. Once we go in with our little Dremel and tidy that up, it'll be totally different again. So we've gone around the inside of the line, remember. Never route on the line, because you'll have the thickness of your route a bit. Remember, 3mm, depending on how deep you go, you want to route up to the line on the inner side, and obviously if you're doing outer cut, outset lettering, you'll come up to the line on the outside. If you had a little piece, little section like this section here, should I say, if you're going to route on the line there, all the way around, you've obviously took out some of that line there and some of that line there. So that distance between there and there would have been thinned down by whatever depth the router bit has gone into the wood, if that makes sense. So always route up to the line. So you can see it's more or less as I've gone round, we've gone down that line there, you can just about make out the pencil line all the way down, and that means you've gone up to the line, not on it. Okay, just remember that one. Right, we'll pop on our end milling bits now. It's going to come out really easy, so I'm quite happy to stick with these, even though they look fairly small and it looks like it would take a long time. Don't rush your projects. Just enjoy them. There's no race. Everybody's racing about to do things. Just take your time. So just a simple case of removing that. We find the biggest one we've got, which is going to be one of those ones. That's our smallest gap there, so we just make sure it fits down that smallest gap, which is fine. I'll soon whip that out. Now we'll set it to our depth up here. You see I've already removed that with the CNC bit. My little sample ones I did on the side there. So I've gone for that one there with the arrow. That one was a little bit too deep, so I went for that one. And if you just see there, that is literally just the same depth or the thickness as a 3.175mm Dremel bit, which I'll call 3mm. So that's plenty deep enough. Okay, we took the CNC bit out. We'll slide that one in. We'll set it to that depth, or that one over there if you wanted to, and we'll start removing all the inner sections. We'll do that next. Right, we made it all the way around without any issues. Those end milling bits work fine. I just used one of those and it just took that off in no time whatsoever. And because we had already gone round with the CNC bit, as the router bit comes up to the end, they just all popped off nicely, leaving a nice straight edge. Now it's still rough in certain areas, little bits down there. That is just the nature of the wood. Remember, just cheap fencing wood, nothing to do with the bits whatsoever. Like I said previously, there is better and maybe more expensive bits out there. It's just finding what works for you, and I'm quite happy with this CNC bit and end milling bits. Now for general clean out, I like to use a flexi cable like this on the end of my Dremel. This isn't a Dremel original, this is just a eBay special as I call it, and it literally has a nice cable on like so and attaches to the end of your Dremel there. And that just hooks up on my speaker stand like so, up there, and there we have it. It's just a lot better for keeping in your hand instead of trying to hold a complete full-size Dremel. Now the bits I use for clearing out with are called engraving bits. Very small pieces like that. I get one that's got a nice flat end on, and we just literally just go inside here and just keep it nice, clean it all out. I've actually got one in there already, you can see from that. That's a piece we're going to use today. Now they do vary from your carving bits. If you notice quickly here, they're your carving bits on the left hand side. They're obviously quite chunky and they're a little bit more aggressive. Certainly won't want to clean out with one of those. So they're your carving bits, should I say. And those on the right hand side are your engraving bits. And they work fine for all my little projects. Okay, so we've got one on the end of here. We're just going to go around, tidy this up, and then we'll get onto the scroll saw side of things. Right, that's enough sanding down for me. It's near enough for what I want. It's only going to go on the side of the shed once we're done. So that's fairly smooth. Remember, we're going to put paint on this. Now, like I said previously, you could leave that on there and literally just route out the back section to the same depth as that, which was 3mm, remember. And paint the dog itself with your white and the black and just leave a nice wooden background if you wanted to. I'm actually going to cut this one out, it's going to go on the side of this shed with the rest of them. Now for cutting out, I'm going to use a scroll saw. I'll just quickly show you the 3 different blades that you get with a scroll saw. There is fancier types with teeth going up and down and fancy twist ones, and there's all sorts out there by different companies. Just finding one that you're happy with. The basic blade, which comes on your cheaper basic saw, is what they call a pin blade. And you can see that there's a pin at both ends, and that just literally locks onto your scroll saw like so. When you put your blade in a saw, that you always want the teeth facing towards you, and they want to feel smooth on the way down, and you'll feel how rough they are on the way up. That way you know you've got your blade in the right way. Now this would be perfect for today, because it's literally an outer cut. I'm just going to go all the way around there. That would be no problem whatsoever. If it was a detailed project, and we had to get into some small pre-drilled pilot holes, you would use what they call a pinless blade. And obviously with a pinless, there is no pins on it, and it is just like a needle basically, and that allows you to get into really small detailed places. Imagine if we were going to cut this out, the centre of the eye out, you obviously wouldn't get in with a pin blade, so a pinless one would be perfect. They come on your more expensive and newer saws, and there's a clamp at the top with a lock in, and the bottom take up your tension and you're good to go. Same with these ones as well. Teeth at the front, smooth on the way down, rough on the way up. Now the third blade I like to use is a spiral blade. These aren't for everybody, and you will either love or hate them. They take a little getting used to, but once you use them, I won't use anything else now. And as the word says, these are actually spiraled, so the teeth go all the way up to the top from the bottom in a spiral shape. Because they are spiraled, you can cut in any direction with these. These are ideal for larger projects where you're limited with the neck distance on your scroll saw. So you could basically put your blade into there like so, and literally just go like that with your wood and cut it out like so. Really, really easy. Whereas if you had a pin blade or a pinless blade, you'd have to come into here like so. Remember, the teeth are facing towards you, so you'd have to cut down like that and then turn that wood completely to cut up there, and then you have to turn it again to cut down there and then turn it again. And there's a lot of twisting and turning. Some people are fantastic on these. I'll just struggle a bit with these straight flat blades, as they're called. So pegas number 5 spiral for me. We'll pop it in the saw now. Same with this one as well with your spirals. Smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. Obviously it doesn't matter which way the teeth are facing because they're the full spiral of the blade. Okay, let's pop this one in and we'll start cutting this one out quickly. Right, you can see from that we've set the blade up in the saw. I have to use these adapter clamps on my old drapper. There's different versions, Axeman's to do one, different types, but I'm quite happy with these ones. They're a bit fiddly, but once you get used to them, they're no problem. So we've took up the tension of the saw, remember? Some have fancy clips at the top, mine's at the back of the saw, and you basically just tighten the knob up until you get that nice ping ping sound, and there's just a slight bit of movement, but nothing's going to bother you. This little tube here is an airline. You can set that up to where you want it, and as you're sawing, hopefully this will blow air out of the way, and it just clears the line for you to see. Okay, let's start cutting this one out. Right, we've made it all the way around with our Pegas number 5 spiral blade. Now I've not took it out of this surround yet. I just wanted to remove it just to show you. A lot of people complain about the cut on this spiral blade, and yes, it's not as smooth as a straight standard flat blade, but I like them. You do get a lot of dust with them. That could just be the actual wood itself. So this is the first time I've taken it out like that. I mean, personally, it's hard to show you on here, but is it smooth? No, it's not. But is it rough? No, it's not. So each to their own. The only issue I do find is it gets quite dusty. A little blow off, brush off. Remember, we're going to sand all this anyway, just to give it a general tidy up. I'm sorry about the light being so poor, but you can't really see. Just trying to show you how nice that is. I'm happy with that. There's no problems with that whatsoever. But each to their own. So there we have him. We've got our general cut out now. Now I'm just going to whip over it, excuse me, with a mouse sander, bit of sandpaper. Just give it a nice general shape and a bit of round in these edges so it's not so sharp. Okay, we'll tidy it up and then we're ready for painting. Right, that's enough clearing out for me. We've rounded those edges off slightly and cleaned up inside there the best we can. Remember, we're going to put some nice paint on this, so we don't have to get too carried away, do we? Now, for hanging purposes, just quickly, I use what they call a T-slot bit, like that. I believe this one's a 1/4" shaft, and it's a 5/16. If that means anything to you guys. And you just place it in your router, set your depth, that just slots in there, and you slide across, cut in a nice groove underneath, bring the router back, and bring it back out again. That way, once you get a nice screw to go inside, let's just find you one here. when you hang it on the wall, you can just slide your screw over there, slide your project on, and that's not going to go anywhere. Because it is a funny shape, this one, I've actually put one on the other side, but I think personally, the more you have that going into the wood, so literally just the edge showing, the tighter it is on there, and you really have to slide that on. And that will hold the project on the wall, no problem. But to be safe, we've put one on either side. But it's entirely up to you how you want to hang it. Okay, that's it. Painting side now. Painting time, should I say. For me, I like to use painter's touch or acrylic paint. Just black and a white. This one's getting a bit claggy now, so we might just get this project out of that one. No sanding, seal or anything. On your more decent projects, you might want to seal this with some kind of sealant. Just with thinner paints and stuff, it can bleed into the side walls there through the fibres of the wood, because obviously we've routed them out. So you want to be sealing that with something. I normally put a clear spray on of some description, because it's fencing wood, and we are going to paint this white and then paint the surround black. It doesn't really matter if it bleeds or not, because nobody's going to see it. Okay, it's just a simple case of popping the white on, like so. We'll just paint all this white. It's not the best of brushes. I've really got to get myself some decent supplies. But we'll get the general idea. So that will be all nice and white. Once that's all painted, we'll give it a nice sanding over, just to make this wood crispy again. And then we'll put the black on the front and all down the side bits. Hopefully by the time we come back, I would have found myself a decent brush. Okay, we'll get the general idea. Right inside there, like so. Obviously now we've got onto the walls there, but remember, we're going to sand that off so it doesn't matter. So you can just paint it on. If you prefer sprays, you can spray it on just as easy. The only trouble with white, it's going to want 2 or 3 coats. Okay, I'll paint this. We'll come back when it's ready for sanding, and then hopefully we'll come back when the black's. Right, that's it. This little project is over. Now I'll give it 3 or 4 coats of the yacht varnish. Basically, just to give it a nice shine and a little bit more protection with it going outside. You can just about see from there the shine effect. There is better finishes you can use, polyurethanes, spyurethanes. Everybody has their own personal favourite. But for these nice little simple projects, a bit of spray, yacht varnish, I normally use a crystal clear as well. Ideal for what I need. And that's it. This little project is finished. So it's the Snoopy dog character. It measures in at 12 inches by 6 inches high. Routed out and scroll saw cut out on cheap rough fencing wood. Thank you very much for watching.